In Brownsville, Texas, one of the poorest cities in the United States, there is a school where kids show up at 8:30 in the morning, sit down in front of laptops, and are done with every single academic subject by 10:30. 2 hours. Math, science, reading, social studies. Done. And there is no teacher in the room. There are adults there. They are called guides, but they do not explain anything. They do not grade anything. They do not plan a single lesson. The teaching is done entirely by AI. The school is called Alpha, and the results are genuinely hard to argue with. Their students are testing in the top 1 to 2% nationally. So what does that mean for the 57 million teachers working in classrooms around the world right now? Here's the thing. This video is not going to tell you that teachers are about to disappear overnight. That is not what is happening. What is happening is something more complicated, and in some ways, more unsettling. The teaching profession is being pulled in two directions at once. On one side, AI is doing things teachers never could. It is infinitely patient. It adapts to each student in real time. It is available at 3 in the morning. It does not burn out. And according to a Harvard study published in 2025, it can help students learn more than twice as fast as a traditional lecture. On the other side, teachers are drowning. Overcrowded classrooms, endless admin, low pay, high burnout. Nearly half of all new teachers quit within 5 years. AI did not create this crisis, but it is about to completely reshape it. And by the end of this video, you will see why the question is not really, will AI replace teachers? It is something far more uncomfortable than that. Let's start with a number that should stop you in your tracks. According to McKinsey Global Institute, 40% of the tasks that elementary school teachers do every single day could be automated by 2030. Not 40% of teachers, 40% of the work each teacher does. Grading, lesson planning, progress reports, attendance tracking, parent communication. All of it, the stuff that takes up hours every day, can be handled by software that exists right now. Teachers in the United States spend, on average, 10 hours and 30 minutes working per day, and only about half of that is actually spent teaching. The rest is administration, paperwork, chasing emails, writing the same report 5 different ways for 5 different systems. In 2025, a study found that teachers who use AI tools at least once a week save an average of 5.9 hours per week. That does not sound dramatic until you do the math. That is 6 extra weeks of reclaimed time across a single school year. 6 weeks. Not for vacation, for actually teaching. And here is where it gets interesting. You would think a gain in efficiency like that would make teaching more attractive, more sustainable, maybe even better paid. But that is not what is happening. What is actually happening is that school districts are starting to ask a very different question. Not how can we use AI to support teachers, but how many teachers do we actually need? And that question is already being answered in places you might not expect. Mackenzie Price is a mother, not an educator. She studied psychology at Stanford. A few years ago, her daughter came home from one of the top school districts in Texas and said 4 words that changed everything. Her daughter said, "School is so boring." Price did not pull her daughter and go home. She pulled her daughter and built a school. Alpha School opened its first campus in Austin, Texas. The model is simple and radical at the same time. Students spend 2 hours a day on core academic subjects, 4 30-minute sessions in math, science, social studies, and language, taught entirely by adaptive AI software. No human explains the lesson. The AI tracks exactly where each student is, adjusts the difficulty in real time, and will not let a student move forward until they have actually mastered the concept. The rest of the school day, 6 hours, is spent on what Price calls life skills: public speaking, financial literacy, cooking, building a food truck, riding a bike. The adults in the building are called guides. They do not plan curriculum. They do not grade work. They offer emotional support and coaching. That is it. and the results have been impossible to dismiss. Alpha students are scoring in the top 1 to 2% nationally. In September 2025, the U.S. Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon, personally visited the Austin campus and called it an exemplary case of what technology can do for American education. Alpha is now expanding. Campuses in Miami, Houston, Fort Worth, Phoenix, New York City, where tuition reaches $65,000 a year. That last part matters because it raises a question the school's founders have been quietly avoiding. If AI can teach kids this well, why does it cost more than most people's annual salary to access it? Let us step away from the private school world for a moment, because the most striking evidence for AI in education did not come from a startup. It came from Harvard University. In the fall of 2023, physicist Gregory Keston ran an experiment. He took 194 undergraduate students, all of them enrolled in an introductory physics course, and split them into two groups. One group went to class, normal lectures, normal active learning sessions with a human professor. The other group stayed in their dorms and learned the same material through an AI tutor that Keston had carefully designed using established teaching principles. The AI asked questions instead of giving answers. It adjusted its explanations to where each student was getting stuck. It was available constantly, endlessly patient, and never condescending. Then both groups took tests. The students who used the AI tutor learned more than twice as much in less time. Not slightly more, not a bit better. Twice as much, in less time. Keston published the study in the journal Scientific Reports in June 2025. The response from education researchers ranged from cautious enthusiasm to outright alarm. Here's the cautious part. These were Harvard students, motivated, academically strong, already comfortable with technology. The experiment lasted 2 weeks. Nobody knows what happens over a full year. Nobody knows what happens to the social skills, the collaboration, the mentorship that you cannot measure with a test score. But here is the alarming part. What if those caveats do not actually matter as much as we think? Because here is what the test score data does not show you, and this is the part that actually keeps education researchers up at night. While researchers were designing careful experiments and school founders were building campuses, students everywhere were running their own experiment, and they did not ask permission. By January 2023, just 2 months after ChatGPT launched, nearly 90% of college students surveyed were already using it for homework help. 90% in 2 months. Fast forward to 2025. A survey found that 88% of students in the United States had used AI for assessments in some form, not just for brainstorming or research, but for tests, for essays, for assignments that were supposed to demonstrate what they understood. In the UK, universities reported nearly 7,000 proven cases of academic cheating involving AI in a single year. And those are just the ones they caught. Schools started fighting back. George Mason University rewrote its entire honor code in 2025, replacing it with an academic standards code focused specifically on AI. Haverford College moved to strict prohibition of unauthorized AI use. Dozens of universities quietly updated their plagiarism detection systems to flag AI-generated text. And then something strange happened. The tools designed to catch AI-written essays started flagging actual human writing. Teachers began getting reports that their own lesson plans, written by hand, had been marked as AI-generated. Students with English as a second language were being accused of cheating simply because their writing did not match the expectation of AI for natural human phrasing. The system meant to stop AI use was destroying trust between teachers and students. That trust, it turns out, is the one thing AI genuinely cannot replicate. Here's a number that tells a different story. Human teachers can read a student's emotional state with 92% accuracy. They pick up on the slumped shoulders, the too quick answer, the kid who has been fine all week and is not fine today. The most advanced AI tutoring systems currently manage 68% accuracy on the same task. That gap of 24 points, that is not a software update. That is something closer to human judgment, to relationship, to the kind of attention that comes from actually knowing someone. In 2025, 65% of higher education students told Cengage, a major education publisher, that they believe they knew more about AI than their own instructors, and 45% said they wished their professors would do more with it. Think about that. Students are demanding more AI in their education, and most of the adults responsible for that education are still figuring out how to use ChatGPT. The gap is not technological anymore. It is generational. It is institutional. It is the fact that teacher training programs in most countries are still preparing educators for a classroom that does not quite exist anymore. In the 2024 to 2025 school year, only 26% of U.S. school districts offered any AI training to their teachers. By fall 2025, that number was expected to reach 74%, a massive jump, but still catching up to a world that already moved on. Teachers who do not adapt are not just at risk of being replaced, they are already becoming invisible. And now, we need to talk about the countries that are not waiting around. China has been running AI tutoring programs at national scale since 2018. The company Squirrel AI, founded by Derek Howe, operates more than 2,000 learning centers across China, serving millions of students with adaptive AI that tracks over 10,000 discrete knowledge points per subject. Studies comparing Squirrel AI to human tutors in randomized trials found the AI performed comparably, and in some cases better, for middle school math. In South Korea, the government launched a national AI tutoring platform in 2023 called AI Digipini, aiming to give every student access to personalized AI support, regardless of income. In the United Arab Emirates, AI literacy has been added to the mandatory national curriculum. In the United States and Europe, the response has been slower, more cautious, more contested. Teachers' unions in the U.S. have pushed back on AI-driven evaluation systems. In the UK, the teaching profession saw a net loss of over 40,000 full-time equivalent teachers between 2010 and 2023. This is a crisis driven by pay, workload, and burnout that AI is about to slam headfirst into. The countries moving fastest on AI in education are not doing it to replace teachers. They are doing it because they do not have enough teachers to begin with. Here's the thing that nobody in this conversation wants to say out loud. The teacher shortage isn't a staffing problem, it's a signal. In the United States, 44% of teachers say they've seriously considered leaving the profession in the past year. In the United Kingdom, it's similar. In Australia, teacher vacancies hit record highs in 2024. Across the OECD, the group of the world's wealthiest nations, teaching is becoming a job that fewer and fewer people want to do. The pay is low. The workload is crushing. The respect is eroded. And into that gap, that very specific, very human-made gap, AI is stepping. Not because AI is better at teaching, not because algorithms understand children, but because the system failed to make teaching sustainable for human beings. And now, there's a replacement available. The real question isn't, can AI teach? We've seen the evidence. In some narrow, measurable contexts, it absolutely can. The question is, what are we willing to lose? Because a 6-year-old learning to read can also learn that an adult cared enough to sit with them, to notice them, to believe in them on the days they didn't believe in themselves. No algorithm has ever done that. The future of teaching probably does not look like Alpha School, and it probably does not look like it did in 1995 either. It looks like something we are still building. A teacher who has 6 extra weeks back in her year because AI handles grading. A student in rural Indonesia who gets one-on-one support for the first time because an AI tutor costs nothing. A classroom where the human is finally free to do the things only a human can do. That is the version worth fighting for. That is the version that requires teachers to be part of this conversation, loudly, clearly, and now, rather than waiting to see what happens. Because the schools that do not include teachers in that conversation are already making decisions without them. If this video made you think, share it with a teacher. And if you want to know what is happening to other professions right now, the next video is waiting.